New tonight on KGW News, why a court just told the metal recycler tied to a devastating Portland fire to shut it down. Plus,
if we're not supposed to be paying, then why are we?
A KGW investigation reveals how some people in rural communities appear to be getting overcharged and overlooked when it comes to getting their mail.
This is a pretty straightforward problem to solve.
Then, a push to replace an aging firehouse fails by just a handful of votes.
Some of the people we talked to didn't realize that there was a back page to their ballot.
And later, what an uninvited guest with a sweet tooth stole from inside this hotel. A very good evening, everyone. David Molko with you on this Thursday with a look at our hazy sunset this evening over the Columbia as smoke from wildfires across the Northwest returned to the Portland metro. Let's kick things off with meteorologist Chris McGinnis tracking our air quality and your weekend forecast. Hey there, Chris.
Yeah, good evening, David. Air quality, actually, it did take a little bit of a hit, but not that bad. And I want to show you the satellite imagery here. So we're looking at a composite from the NWS. This is when we have the sunshine, so we get the visible imagery, and then we get the computer-enhanced imagery as we lose the daylight. And you can plainly see, we'll wait for the daylight imagery to come back. Come on, there we go. There we go. There's the wildfire smoke that got a little kick to the west here as we went throughout the day today. Not only smoke from the Grasshopper fire, but there was a lot of smoke from the Puget Sound all the way down into northwest Oregon as well, from fires burning even farther north up in BC and Washington. Now, air quality has taken a little bit of a hit, but it's not terrible. That's good news, right? Moderate air quality being reported here across the Portland, Vancouver metro area. And here's the deal. I don't think it's going to get any worse. And in fact, if anything, as we go through the day tomorrow, we'll get a little bit more of a westward kick in the mid-levels of the atmosphere, and that should help diminish the hazy sky that we have. So one more kind of hazy day, but I don't think the air quality is going to be too bad. And then as we go into the weekend, we'll kick that stuff out of here and things will be much, much better. All right, live from the Springs to the waterfront right now. It's mild out there. It's 70 degrees at 11 o'clock. Our state capital, we had a nice sunset there earlier, 66 right now in Salem. And looking down at the bricks, it's empty. I guess it should be at this hour. 70 degrees right now in downtown. The plan for tomorrow, Friday, start off with some morning cloud cover. As the clouds thin, you'll notice the wildfire haze. That will thin as we go into the afternoon. I've got us topping out in the low 80s. David, back to you.
Nice to have some great news there. Thanks so much, Chris. New tonight, the metal recycler connected to this massive 5-alarm fire in 2018, one that destroyed homes and livelihoods in Northeast Portland, has years later been ordered to shut down its operations. Catherine Cook's in the newsroom with a look at the court battle that led up to the ruling. Catherine.
David, a Multnomah County Circuit Court judge ruled Northwest Metals willfully violated a 2021 court order by operating without valid environmental permits. The court ordered the company to shut down until it complies with Oregon's environmental laws.
March 12, 2018. Fire ripped through the Northwest Metal scrapyard off Northeast Killingsworth. It destroyed several neighboring homes and triggered mass evacuations as plumes of black smoke rose up from burning tires and metal. Since then, the company has moved twice, most recently to this space off North Commercial Avenue. The Oregon Department of Justice filed and won a civil contempt case on behalf of the DEQ against Northwest Metals. The court found the company violated a 2021 court order, which its president, Moyota Anota, signed, requiring Northwest Metals to comply with Oregon's environmental laws. The ruling noted the company had been operating a metal shredder without valid permits, including one for air, solid waste, and stormwater discharge. In a statement, Attorney General Dan Rayfield said, "For years, this company ignored a court order and continued polluting the air and water in neighborhoods in Portland. The people who live and work near this site deserve better than the broken promises they've gotten from Northwest Metals." The president of Northwest Metals is appealing the contempt of court ruling and is seeking a stay so it can continue operations. In a statement to KGW, he wrote in part, Northwest Metals' position is that it has made substantial efforts to comply with Oregon environmental requirements and that significant legal and factual issues remain regarding the permitting requirements.
Oregon DOJ tells us it intends to defend the appeal and to oppose the request for a stay of the contempt ruling. David.
That's Catherine Cook reporting tonight. Thanks, Catherine. In an update, demolition is set to begin as soon as tomorrow on the burned out century-old mill in Northwest Portland, the one on the verge of collapse. The contractor in charge of the demo has put up fences with surrounding condo buildings, turning off their air intakes in case the teardown generates more debris, including asbestos. This comes while Union Pacific, the railroad, refuses to say whether it will stop running train cars with hazardous material on the tracks across Nadeau Parkway from Centennial Mills. It says safety measures are in place, including limiting train speeds and buffer cars on the eastern track. Neighbors have mixed feelings.
I think it's a danger. I mean, maybe it's not sky-high danger, but if it happened, it would be a big loss to train, people, everything. Her feeling is the economy needs the trains going back and forth, and that was a big problem.
Yeah, Amtrak trains suspended, by the way, indefinitely. It's unclear how long demolition could take. With the added complication, the building is considered a crime scene, and it's likely demolition crews could find human remains inside. To get you caught up on tonight's other headlines now, Yamhill County deputies have arrested a suspect they say sexually exploited a child, and investigators worry he could have other victims. Detectives say Jeremy Tisch contacted a minor for sex in February. Then they learned Tisch had been involved in Future Farmers of America events in Polk County, where he had contact with minors. Anyone with information should reach out to the Yamhill County Sheriff's Office. A man accused of a Christmas Eve museum break-in in Hillsborough has been found guilty of burglary and theft. This video from 2023 shows Vincent Charles Roberts II breaking into the Rice Northwest Museum of Rocks and Minerals and smashing display cases with a sledgehammer, apparently to get to the gold inside. Authorities say he tried to sell it at pawn shops near Salem, which called detectives. Roberts' DNA was also found at the crime scene. He will be sentenced later this month. And Beaverton police are asking for help finding a suspect or suspects connected to two separate assault cases from the same morning. Police say this man was attacked. This is the victim sometime between 2 and 5 a.m. a week ago Tuesday near the Beaverton Transit Center. Officers say they found this man near Southwest Lombard and Canyon, badly beaten with significant head injuries. Then, around 5:15 that same morning, police responded to Southwest 107th and Beaverton Hillsdale Highway, where they found a man who had been stabbed. He was hospitalized with critical injuries. Authorities think the suspect in that case may have been driving a van similar to this, an early 2000s silver-colored Honda Odyssey. To a brand new KGW investigation, one that impacts thousands of people who live in rural areas. We're talking about spots in the gorge where some residents have been forced to pay for a P.O. box while neighbors get the same service for free. Investigative reporter Kyle Aboshi went to find out why.
The small town of White Salmon, Washington seems to have it all. Picturesque views and white picket fences. But when it comes to the basics like water, power, and trash pickup, there's one service that's missing: mail. The U.S. Postal Service doesn't deliver within city limits. Instead, most residents have to pay for a P.O. box.
You would think that with our taxes and all that we would be able to have our mail delivered like everybody else.
Even people who live just blocks from the post office have to pay to get their mail.
You know, you have to have mail. They say you got to pay for it. Well, here I am. What am I going to do?
And it isn't cheap. P.O. box prices keep climbing.
My box is $200 a year.
It's something that many of our residents have been dealing with for decades.
White Salmon Mayor Marla Keithler sees it up close. For people here, mail isn't just letters. It's medication, legal documents, and in Washington, it's how you vote.
Does this complicate things?
In White Salmon, the fact that you need to rent a post office box and take on that cost in order to have an address for your ballot to be delivered is something that we find alarming when you really think about it.
Would it be fair to say you're paying to vote?
When you reduce it down, that's what it feels like.
Several years ago, the city of White Salmon came up with a solution. They designed a delivery route and bought group mailboxes to place around town.
So these are our cluster boxes.
But the U.S. Postal Service wasn't interested in creating new routes, so those mailboxes now sit in storage.
So now we have a town's worth of cluster boxes and no residents to be able to get mail from them.
If that isn't frustrating enough, get this. The Postal Service is supposed to provide free P.O. boxes in places it doesn't offer home delivery.
In 1998, the U.S. Postal Service revised its policy granting a P.O. box at no cost to customers who do not receive any form of carrier delivery. The goal was to help better fulfill the Postal Service's mission of providing universal mail delivery. But KGW found the policy isn't applied evenly. Some rural residents are getting P.O. boxes for free, while others pay. North Bonneville and Dowsport, two towns near White Salmon, get free P.O. boxes for nearly 4 out of 5 residents, while White Salmon gets 0. Across the Columbia River, it's the same thing. There's no home delivery for most residents in Cascade Locks, and the Postal Service provides no free P.O. boxes.
If we're not supposed to be paying, then why are we?
Most residents had no idea there was a policy providing P.O. boxes for free.
I've never gotten a little thing in my mailbox saying, hey, you know you have to pay for this.
When asked about the free P.O. boxes and who gets them, a spokesperson for the Postal Service explained that residents don't automatically qualify. They've got to apply, and eligibility determinations are handled on a case-by-case basis through local postal leadership and regional operational assessments.
This is a pretty straightforward problem to solve. We know that there's a inequity that exists that shouldn't be.
Smaller towns, especially in rural communities, often feel a little overlooked.
I do think this is another example of those things that build in a small town and can contribute to that mindset of feeling overlooked.
Residents in these small towns don't blame the people behind the counter.
I love my postal folks.
They say the problem isn't their local post office. It's Postal Service policy.
I don't know how that works.
They don't understand why they have to pay for a service many of their neighbors receive for free.
Kyle Laboshi reporting there. If you don't get carrier delivery and you want to apply for a free P.O. box, you'll need to fill out a form. It's called a 1093. We've got all the details and that form on KGW.com, along with a survey, because Kyle wants to hear from you to find out if this works or not. We'll keep you posted. Right, in Clark County, some firefighters are trying to figure out how to move forward after a bond measure for a new fire station failed. Station 10 in Amboy is over 60 years old and is not up to code and still has structural damage from the Nisqually quake. It's also a tight squeeze for both fire trucks and firefighters. The bond to fund a new fire station needed 60% plus 1 vote to pass. It fell just 15 votes short.
Never a good time to ask for more money. And with some of the people that voted no, we talked to them and they voted no just purely out of looking in their pocketbook.
Yeah, one potential issue, firefighters say many people did not realize the bond measure was on the back side of the ballot, and they are hoping, they say, to try again next year.